Today, let's talk about something that I learned about 2 weeks ago. That's 14 days, 10 to 14 days ago. I had heard someone say, nothing stays the same. It's either getting worse or it's getting better. And when I heard this, I thought, you know what? I'm going to question that a little bit. It caught my ear, and it was coming from a reliable source. One of my teachers that I listened to. I can't remember exactly who it was. I'm trying to think. As I'm going here, I'll try to remember who said it. I would hate just to throw out names and not be 100% sure on who I heard it from. I'm sure I'll hear it recently if I don't remember. I'm sure I'll hear it again pretty soon. And then after this video, I'll be like, oh, now I know who it is. But if I remember along the way, I'll tell you who it was. And when I heard it, at the exact moment I heard it, it caught my ear, but then I thought, you know what? No, it can't be. It can't, because I've used and I've heard and I've used the how are things? All the same. How's it going? All the same. Since last time I saw you, how's it going? Oh, same. And or something like that. So I thought, no, there's some things that stay the same. There's got to be. So I questioned it. I thought, no, it can't just go either or. It can't go either just getting better or it's getting bad. And then I thought, wait a minute, this reminds me a lot of what I heard years ago with either, I think it was Jim Rohn who might have said it, or maybe Tony Robbins, or, Tony Robbins heard it from Jim Rohn, and then I heard it from both. And it said, if you're not growing, you're dying. I was like, that kind of sounds the same. And it is. It's the same concept. Either you're going up or you're going down. You can't stay the same. Either you're growing or you're dying. Either it's getting better or it's getting worse. But this one kind of got me a little bit. Because, growing, dying is like, well, yeah, is you're born and then you live, and as you live, you get closer to the end. That's like, okay, yeah, that's kind of logical. But when I heard it in these words, either it's getting better or it's getting worse, it kind of brought it down to not so much life in general, but anything that you're working on. I thought right away, first thing was like, well, relationships. Relationship with your loved ones. Those are important. It's either growing. It's either getting better or it's getting worse. I was like, damn, is it? Like, nah, it could stay the same. And I thought, okay, well, wait, hold on. And at that point I realized, you know what? I'm going to take a while. I'm going to take a little bit. I'm going to invest some mental real estate on this. And I'm going to go through just a bunch of stuff. Physical stuff, emotional stuff. And see if it's really true that if it's either getting better or getting worse, whatever. Because I wanted to understand it. I wanted to make sure if it was something that I wanted to include in my belief system, and then I wanted to apply it and make sure that, I want to make sure that everything's getting better. I don't want nothing getting worse, especially if I have control over it. I was like, but no, I had some doubts, and so I started applying it to things I would see that I would remind me of something that maybe I owned. So I saw a tree. I was driving, so you see a lot of trees around here. So a tree is like, okay, well, let's think about the tree that we planted at home, that we have in the front, that gives great shade. Love it. I see, is it getting better or is it getting worse? It's like, well, it's fine. I thought, well, no. I guess if we leave it and we neglect it and we don't trim it and we don't water it and we don't take care of it and we don't enjoy it, it'll get worse because it won't be well groomed. So if it's not well groomed, it'll, kind of just start growing all wild. We don't trim it. We don't shake off the dead leaves. We don't clean up around it. So it's getting worse. Its image, it's getting worse. It's well-groomedness, it's getting worse. Its aesthetic, pleasing look is getting worse. So, yeah, I guess so. I don't water it forever. It could even dry up, It could get worse. But if that early morning or the night before it got watered, and then we shaped it really nicely, the 2-3 times we do it a year, and we, the dirt, the soil around it is nice and turned and nice and dark and moist, and all the dry leaves, if any, are dropped, and it's all swept around and clean. It's getting better, because tomorrow it'll be a little older, and so if we did that yesterday, it got better. And we're keeping an eye on it to make sure, we don't need to do that every day, but we could, we could sweep every 2-3 days if needed. So it's getting better. It's consistently getting better as it's getting older. It's looking nicer than it did the day before. So yeah, and like a graph, it's getting better. It's like, okay, cool, the tree's getting better. It could get better, it could get worse. Got it, whatever. I thought, okay, relationship with myself, the most important person in my life, me. Was it the same that it was yesterday? And this is me going through the days. I'm giving you guys examples of what I really thought about for a whole day, probably. I was like, well, if I ignore my self-accountability, it's automatically getting worse. If I don't look back that hour, if I don't check that hour, those hourly checks that I do, and see if I did the things that I'm supposed to do for my 4 pillars of my life, if I skip an hour, or I skip 2 hours, or I skip a day, then yeah, that's a little check down on the graph of better or worse. But if I do it, and I do one more good thing, and I'm accountable to the things that I say I'm going to do, and I'm disciplined, my discipline gets a workout, and I get better at self-discipline, then yeah, my relationship and my love for myself improves. So it's getting better. So I was like, wow, okay, so it's also true with like love. I could get better, get worse. If I make sure that I tell my kids that I love them, and I hug them, and then I stop, that's making it better every day. If I show them that I love them, if I send, energy, loving energy towards them, and support them, and be the best version of me that I could be for them, then yeah, the relationship is getting better. But if I neglect them, if I'm not accountable to them, if I don't check in with them, if I'm not involved in the things that they're involved in, then it's getting worse. It can't stay the same. So there you go. Love has it too. I said, okay. I thought, a rock that's just chilling right there. Is it getting better, or is it getting worse? That one was a little bit more tough. But it's like, okay, if a rock just sits there on the sidewalk, is it getting better, or is it getting worse? Well, if the elements hit it in a long period of time, and it just sits on the sidewalk and no one touches it, and it goes from wind, heat, dark, cold, hot, all the elements, eventually it will start to deteriorate. It could maybe break. So it's, in a certain point of view, it's getting worse. But if it's in its elements, maybe like with other rocks, where it's somewhat protected, if it's maybe in soil, if it's in a shady area where it's not getting that beat up, if someone has it as a pet and is taking care of it, it's getting better because it's getting the treatment that it needs to last longer as it has its existence here on this planet. That one was a little tough, but still, I was able to break it down. This rock can get better and stick around longer and have a better existence, or it could get worse and get smashed and not exist no more, or transition into something else, sand or whatever, you know, if you really got technical. So everything, what I realized is that, yeah, it's true. It's very true. It's either getting better or it's getting worse. Now, I'm not so concerned about the rock. I think they got it going on. I think they, you know, them existing, they got it figured out. But I brought it back, and of course, you know, I'm trying to be silly there, but bringing it back to, like, me. I'm sharing it with you. That we have the option of getting on the better side or getting on the worse side. We have those choices every day. And we have our life, and it has, you know, the 4 pillars of life that I talk about. You have your health, mental health, internal health, external health, physical health. You have your wealth, your finances, your cash flow, what you're bringing in, what you got, you know, what you got working for you, how much you have. Love, the love for yourself. The more you have for you, the more you love yourself. The more you're working on loving yourself more every day by becoming the version of you that you would admire. Is the more you have, the more you can give. You can't love more than you love yourself. So you have your love. And then you have your spirituality. You know, your relationship with your existence. With Mother Nature, with the universe, whatever you have, you want to call it. How you take care of yourself in the sense of becoming part of this universal existence while the time that you're here. Whichever way you see that. Is it getting better or is it getting worse? And now that I figured out that, yeah, there is no the same. We have that option. We have to teeter either one way or have to teeter the other way. And once I figured that out, I was like, okay, I got to make sure that I'm touching on all of these every day, every hour. I got to try to check in every hour, every top of the hour, and make sure that I'm doing something to make it better. At the very least, every day. It'd be cool if I could do it every hour. But at the very least, every day, do something to make each and every one of those pillars better. Because the other option is worse. Because they can't stay the same. So I got to make sure that I am on the better side of things. Because I'm not liking worse. Once I figured that out, it was really like, wow, okay, cool. We do have control. I do have control of what direction I'm going. And when you learn, when I learn these things, most of the stuff comes in and like, yeah, that's true. And I apply it to my life, and I see how I could maximize the lesson that I learned. But this is the first time that, in a long time, the first time where I said, whoa, that makes sense, but I'm not sure it's 100% true. There's got to be something that stays the same. Which is why I went through that whole process of, like, does it? Or does it not? At that point, that's when I realized if the 2 options is getting worse, whether it's any one of those 4 legs, those 4 pillars of life, if the 2 options is better or worse, I want to for sure make sure that everything I'm doing is to make things better.